Hello, good people of YouTube. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys what I think needs to change about submarines. And I'm not saying this is like definitive must happen, but these are some ideas that I have in order to balance the submarines right now. And in my opinion, they are wholeheartedly just unbalanced right now. They are extremely strong with very little counterplay that's available to other classes, and actually three of the classes there's actually no counterplay to the submarines if they're not at the surface, and we are going to talk about all that. Before we get going, I have been playing the submarine battle mode almost exclusively for the past 3 days now. This will be coming out on Saturday, so this will be coming out 3-4 days after my first impressions video of the submarines. And off the bat, I want to state this up front. I have not gotten the submarines in the bundles, but I have played them on PT. I played a whole lot of them on the public test server, and this version of the submarines that we have now is almost exactly identical to the version that we got on PT. There are a couple of comments on my last submarine video that people seem to think that I hadn't played submarines. I've played them. I've played a whole lot of them. I played the S1, I played the Cachalot, I played the U-69. So I know what it's like to play these submarines, and I know the various things that you can do to take advantage of their mechanics and stuff right now. So I know what it's like to play subs. So I just want to make that clear in the right in the front. Also, I'm gonna put a timestamp in here when you want to, if you want to go straight to what I think needs to change. But I just want to clarify some things before that. So timestamp should be somewhere around here if you want to go straight into what I think needs to change. But if you want to hear what I want to clarify first before you do that, which I do encourage you to do, please stick around. Okay, so real quick, some clarification. A whole lot of people seem to think that I want battleships, carriers, and heavy cruisers to just become submarine killing machines based on my last submarine video. That is not the case. I just want them to have some minimal ability to counter and fend off submarines and protect themselves from submarines. Every ship class in the game right now has some counter to the other class. And you can argue the CVs with AA, that's still not exactly strong. And some ships, they have AA, but it's not really effective. Yes, but they have it. They have some ability to counter the carriers. Musashi, whose whole trade-off for being a tier 9 is barely having AA, still has AA. It still has it. And it still has a catapult fighter. So it still has some minimal countering ability to carriers, and it can shoot down planes. Despite having basically a bunch of Japanese soldiers on the deck with a bunch of Nambu pistols, it can still shoot down planes from time to time. It has something. Battleships, carriers, heavy cruisers right now have nothing to counter subs when they're below the surface. And again, I'm not asking you to go and strap 50 depth charges to the grosser curve first. I just want to have some ability to counter the submarines when they're below the surface, be it an ASW plane, be it degaussing, be it just some other mechanic that I haven't thought of or someone else hasn't thought of. There just has to be something in order to balance, just for the sake of game balance. There has to be something for these three other classes to counter these subs when they're below the surface. That is what I meant. I'm not saying they need to all become magical submarine killing machines. They just need something, some bare minimal ability to defend themselves against submerged submarines for the sake of game balance. Okay, now into the rest of the video. So, again, this is all my opinion. This is from me playing submarines with the PT extensively and playing basically just submarine battles and, clan wars in World Warships for the past 3 days. Not saying clan wars has contributed to this list. I'm just saying that I've only played sub battles and clan wars for the past 3 days. Okay, so first off, if you've played submarines, you know that, well, if you haven't played submarines too, you'll notice this, that when submarines are below 6 meters, 6 meters and below, they're immune to all surface fire, which, okay, that can be a mechanic, fine. But it is so easy to abuse going from 5.8 meters or 5.9 meters down to 6.1 meters. You can sit at 5.9 meters, and I've done this before in U-69, S1, Cachalot, all of them. And you can still boogie at your surface speed, which is your fastest speed in your submarine. and then you're being shot at, just hit C for a little bit, and you can go beneath the waves and then become immune to all surface fire. Also, when you're above 6 meters for some reason, depth charges won't hurt you, which I think that needs to be fixed. That's something that shouldn't be questioned. That should be fixed, because depth charges, it's a huge barrel full of explosives. It's going to hurt you whether or not you're at the surface or not, or below the surface if it goes off. So that needs to be fixed, the depth charges, and this whole threshold riding, that needs to be fixed as well. One way I would see it is instead of changing it from 6 meters, the second your deck goes below the water, your speed should be decreased to your submerged speed. Also, you could increase the time it takes to transition from surface to underwater. That could be another fix to it as well. But still, it's kind of ridiculous to see these submarines at 5.9 meters. You see a periscope just boogieing at like 28 knots across your screen. Like, that wouldn't happen. That would get ripped off from the speed at which you were traveling and such. But yeah, that needs to be fixed, because that's infuriating. And plus, you're traveling at 28 something knots. You're still at the surface, so there's not any type of bearing to go off of if you're trying to shoot at said submarine, because you're just looking at a periscope basically flying across your screen. So it's hard to aim if you're trying to shoot said submarine. So again, another reason why this needs to be fixed. Okay, my next point, spotting. The submarine spotting system is kind of really in favor of the submarine, because you can be submerged and still spot ships from within your torpedo range. And you're under the water. How are you doing that? I know, you could argue passive sonar and such, but okay. But still, it's a little, well, very unfair in my opinion. So I think spotting should work like this for submarines. When subs are at the surface, they should of course have their full spotting range. Now when they're at periscope depth, so like 6 meters or below, they're at 70% spotting range, because the ship's lower in the water. The only thing you have to look out of is a periscope. And then when you get at operational depth, they should have roughly 50% of their spotting range, because they're under the water. And I understand it's a game, and having no spotting at your operational depth, that's kind of rough. So yeah, they can still have 50% spotting when they're submerged. And keep in mind too, all this time they still have team spotting. If there's a carrier in game and he's flying around, they still get that spotting. If there's surface ships around, they still get that spotting. So I think then when they're submerged, they get 50% of their normal spotting range. Now, when they're at their operational depth, so this is when they're, I think it's somewhere in like 30 to 20 to 30 meters. I'm not exactly sure the exact stage, but when they're at operational depth, which is the second deepest they can go, I think there's two options to go. Either they get 0 spotting, like they can't spot anything, but they still get team spotting, so they can still see any ships at the team spotting, or they get 40% of their own spotting but no team spotting. That's my choices for that. And again, you're deep below the surface of the ocean. Again, looking at it from a logical standpoint, how are you spotting anything that deep? And again, you could say passive sonar and this and that. Okay, but for game balance, it needs to be one or the other in my opinion. And then when they're at their max depth, which is when they use their consumable to go down to like 80 meters, they should have 0 spotting, no team spotting, no submarine spotting, nothing, nada. You're all the way down at the bottom of the map. At that point, you're just trying to run away. So I think 0 team spotting, 0 sub spotting. Okay, next thing is they need to get rid of the 1/4 speed battery charge. In my opinion, it's incredibly stupid to do that, because that gives the submarine 0 reason to surface. They can stay beneath the water the entire time and never come up. I think that's ridiculous, and some people have said that, oh, well, it's not that much you're not charging it at a very high speed when you're doing that. Yeah, but still, you don't have to come up to the surface. You don't. You're basically staying immune, right now at least in the current build, to 3 classes in the game. You're immune to them, and you never have to come up. I think that's ridiculous. That would be like a destroyer smoke replenishing before their smoke screen ran out. They would never have to leave their smoke screen. Thankfully, we do have radar for that now, but that's the same concept. You're never having to leave that barrier of protection. A smoke screen doesn't even protect you from shells, because you can still get blind fired and smoked. If a submarine's under the water, right now the only thing that can touch them is depth charges or torpedoes from another submarine. And if you're honestly, if you're playing submarines right, you'll never really have to go more than a quarter speed once you're in position. Because ideally the thing you do now with a submarine is you get into position normally on the flank or somewhere maybe by a cap, and you kind of just sit there and wait, and you can go a quarter speed forward, reverse back, and your battery will be charging there the entire time. That's what I did in sub battles and PT, and it worked out very well for me. And that seemed to be what most players are doing, that, or they're doing the bonsai torpedo rush, where you surface really quickly right next to a battleship or a cruiser, just quickly launch your forward torpedoes at them, and they're not homing, they're not magnetic, but you still get like freaking 40,000 damage on, depending upon what submarine you're playing, and then just dive down after that, because again, they can't do anything to you once you're below the surface. But again, I think this is completely silly, and I really don't know why they changed it from oxygen to battery charge. I don't know. So whatever measurement they're using, be it battery charge or oxygen, the submarines need to surface to replenish it. That's my opinion. That's what I think really needs to change. That's the big issue right now. All right, next thing. Ships need to be notified when they're pinged. Sonar pings are really friggin' loud. They can be heard for, especially with modern sonar, you can hear a modern sonar ping, I think it's like 30 to 50 miles away if you're under the water. So a directed ping at your ship, using this game's logic, should be extremely loud and should be very easily detected by said ship. Plus, it will give that ship a chance to know, hey, you've been pinged, you need to maneuver. Because, again, they're homing torpedoes, and even if you're maneuvering, that's not guaranteeing that you're going to be able to dodge them. It has a lot to do with what's the orientation of the submarine to your ship. Are they bow on? Are they stern on? Because if they're bow on or stern on, then that's when you have your best chance of dodging those homing torpedoes. Because homing torpedoes try to go for the side of your ship. And they'll do, and it has a lot to do with how close is the enemy submarine, how far away are they, at what depth they're at. But generally, if you're bow or stern on, that's your best chance to dodge those torpedoes. And if you have no idea the submarine's there, you have no idea you've been pinged, you can keep sailing in a straight line, and let's say there's a enemy destroyer around, and there's an enemy CV, so you're spotted, but you don't know a submarine spotting you. You have no warning that these torpedoes are coming until it's too late. Unless you're in, either a very maneuverable heavy cruiser or a light cruiser destroyer, it's too late. So basically, large heavy cruisers and battleships, they have no chance of dodging these torpedoes. So there needs to be some notification that you've been pinged. It doesn't necessarily have to be letting you know that torpedoes are on the way, but just, hey, you've been pinged, you need to start to maneuver. Okay, speaking of homing torpedoes, in my opinion, homing torpedoes need their spotting range increased. Because again, these are homing torpedoes. Do I need to explain this anymore? They're homing. You need more warning rather than, I think it's like 1.5 kilometers or something right now. Again, depending upon the submarine, but still, whatever the range is now, it's not enough, especially for, again, larger heavy cruisers or less maneuverable heavy cruisers and battleships and carriers. It's not enough warning. If they're spotted far off, like I'm sure you've probably seen that in whatever footage I'm showing you right now, if you have fair warning, yeah, you can dodge them, but the way they work now, you have no chance of dodging them. Okay, next thing, submarines need to be limited to 2 per side when they go into live random matches. And this is because if there's 3 submarines per side, that's 6 ships. That is a ton of health taken out of the game, and a ton of surface ships taken out of the game. So you wind up really having instead of a 12v12, you wind up having an 8v8, a 9v9, and then if you have a CV on each side, then, well, you really only have an 8v8 with surface ships. And that can lead to very boring games, and games where, you may have gone to one flank, but because, there's only two submarines over there and a destroyer rather than, maybe two cruisers and a destroyer, you really don't have the destroyer to shoot at. And then, again, there's so much health taken out of the game now to where you can have a really amazing game, 3 kills, 4 kills, then you look up, you've only done like 50,000 damage because it's all destroyers and submarines and light cruisers making up, just destroyers and submarines now in the sub battles, they're making up like half of the team now. And again, these are the classes with the least amount of health in the game. So I know that you get rewarded for proportional damage, but still, you're taking surface ships out of action, and it's going to make for a boring game if they don't limit it to like 2 per side, in my opinion. All right. So moving on to the next one. In order to encourage team play, some type of assisted ribbon needs to be added into the game. So, for example, let's say you're a Wooster, and it's a CV game at tier 10, and you're sailing with your battleship, and the CV tries to attack the battleship. Well, you would get an assisted and AA ribbon for helping shoot down those planes, even though you don't shoot down the planes, because you're in a Wooster, you're going to shoot down a fair few planes, but the GK is going to shoot down a couple of planes too, especially if he's a secondary build. Again, I'm not saying that GK is a plane bender, I'm just saying that it can have pretty decent AA with a secondary build. So you're going to get an assisted and AA ribbon for helping shoot down those planes that you did damage to, and the GK is going to get also going to get an assisted and AA ribbon too on top of the planes that you shot down. So you get rewarded for selling with your team. And with the submarines, you can get an assisted and ASW ribbon. Say you're 2 DDs that depth charge the same submarine. You may have damaged him, but not killed him, so, you get rewarded for, obviously, well, you get the damage done, obviously, but you get a ribbon for assisted in ASW if you did any damage to that submarine and he gets taken out. You don't get the kill, but you get the damage and the assisted in ASW ribbon. Just something to promote team play, because, yes, the best counter to submarines right now is team play, but I played this game for 3 years. You don't get a lot of team play at randoms. Anyone who's played this game for any extended period of time knows that. And these assisted and whatever ribbons, and again, you can make assisted and assisted kill, assisted this, assisted that, whatever. These can be applied to a whole range of team play issues that are lacking right now. Because we do have the assisted and capture ribbon right now, and of course they defended the cap ribbon, but we need more in order to encourage more team play. All right, second to last thing. Battleship shells should cause flooding on submarines if they pin. I mean, it's a submarine. It's supposed to keep water on the outside of the ship because it goes underwater. Battleship shell is a huge thing, putting a huge hole in your submarine. It should cause flooding. And I know people have said this should be applied to DDs as well, but that's another video for another time. I don't necessarily think that should happen, but, again, another video for another time. But against submarines, this should absolutely happen. They should cause flooding. And plus, I think battleship shells should absolutely wreck them. The clip should be playing now where I was in Prince Eitel Friedrich, and this S1 surfaced for some reason. I think he was maybe trying to dodge the torpedoes that the friendly submarine launched at him, but he surfaced. I got a full broadside on him, only 3 shells connected, and I had HE loaded, mind you, the correct ammunition to deal with submarines according to Wargaming. I only did 2,700 damage to him. I'm sorry. I know Prince Eitel Friedrich doesn't have the largest battleship guns, but they're still 13.7 inches, or 350 millimeters for you Europeans. That's a big-ass shell going through a submarine. That should wreck him. I mean, he goofed up big time, and it's not like he surfaced 15 kilometers away from me. He was, I think, maybe 5 or 6, if that. So, yeah, that should have wrecked him. That should have wrecked him hard. He goofed up big time. So that should have wrecked them. They should have done more than 2,700 damage with 3 13.7-inch shells going through a submarine, and it should have caused flooding. Again, that's my opinion, but that's how it should work in my opinion. Alright, last one. People seem to think that I'm jumping on this subs are going to wreck the game bandwagon. I can see that based on the last video, but I've made this comment before. Submarines can be a good addition to this game. They can be a wonderful addition to this game, but they have to be done properly. They need counters, they need to be balanced, and the current state of submarines right now does not have any of that. And I said this in the last video too. Wargaming has said that they are working on counters for the other classes. And again, I would very much like Wargaming to announce what they're doing exactly, so we can all be put at ease a little bit. But they can be a good addition, but they need to be done correctly. Because it would be amazing to have a game where you can have CVs, battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and submarines all in one game, and just about every other class in between. Again, it's World of Warships. If it's done properly, it can work. And it can be a wonderful addition to the game. But right now, this ain't it. And again, this is testing. This is early on. The submarine battles, it's a beta test. It's a massive beta test. I understand that. But, again, they need work. They need a lot of work. They need to do this right. They cannot afford to fumble this like they fumbled the CV rework. And there's still issues with carriers today. But, again, the CV rework, the class was dying before, and the CV rework did, of course, bring the class back in. That's why we get carrier games almost every other game. But that rework still needs work, and they're kind of rushing into submarines in my opinion. Like I said, I forget what video I said this in, but were we really at the point where we were able to move on for the CV rework and say, okay, we can add in a whole new class now? I don't think so, but they're doing it, but they need to do it right. I say this because I do love this game still. There was a clip in here, I'm not sure if it's played yet, because this video's gone on longer than I anticipated, where I was in PEF. There's an enemy Fuso, and it was just me and him, and I think his DD buddy was off to the side launching torps at me, and I think one of my subs was trying to get torps on him too. But in that moment when we engaged, our secondaries were blasting. I was blasting him, he was blasting me. It was full on broadside to broadside. That was incredibly fun, and why I still play this game, because you still have those moments when it's just good old brawling with battleships, blasting each other, secondaries going off left and right. There's something off to my right trying to kill me too. I'm trying to maneuver around his torpedoes, and we're blasting each other, and I was lucky enough to get the next shot in and take him out. That is why I still play this game, because this is the only game, and I know War Thunder's working on their boats, but I don't like their boats right now. The only game where you can get that, there's not a lot of naval warfare games out there, and the couple that are out there are pretty much just Chinese ripoffs of this game. I know they try to get me to do an ad for it, and it was a mess, but that's why I still play this game, and that's why I just hope they get this right, and I hope they take the feedback from this event seriously and take their damn time getting submarines right, because again, it can be a wonderful addition to the game if implemented correctly. Okay guys, enough of this video. This video has gone on for far longer than I wanted it to. Hope you're having a good day. If you like the video, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 15k subscribers. Again, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.